I think a criminal can pay their debt to society. It really depends on the crime that you commit. If you committed a murder, then it's going to take some time to pay back that debt to really the person's family or just anybody or anybody's like relatives of the person that you killed, because it really affected probably the family's life. So that's gonna have to take some time, and also it just depends on the crime, and I think you are able to pay back the debt to society. And if you really feel like you can help out the community and the people are able to forgive you.
I think that whether or not a criminal can repay their debt to society really depends on the crime that they commit. Because if a person were to take someone else's life, that can never be repaid. Like, you can't give a person their life back, and you can never repay like people for the emotional damage that you caused taking away someone they love. But if it were a more minor crime like stealing, anything that doesn't really have an emotional or permanent physical impact on someone, I think that can be repaid. I mean, I don't think that every crime that causes permanent damage can't be repaid, because I know there are stories of people who say someone killed their daughter in a drunk driving accident, but they've still forgiven them. Like, I think if you can be forgiven by the person who you affected, then maybe you can repay that debt. But overall, I think it really just depends on the crime.
First of all, I don't think a criminal owes anything to society. They owe to whoever they harm, and if whoever they harm forgives them, then they repay their debt to society. And if they do something like kill someone, I don't think you can ever truly repay that, because you took something from the world that could have been great.
I think whether a criminal can ever really repay their debt to society is dependent on a lot of factors: how serious the crime is, what kind of crime it is. I think if it's theft or anything like that, then they don't really have a huge debt to pay to society after their prison sentence, because after that there's still, like, there's repercussions on their prison sentence afterwards. They can't really get a job, they can't like get an apartment or a nice like house or anything after that. So I think that's debt enough, because they've lost so many things in their life. But if you murder somebody or you rape somebody or you do a violent crime, then I think the debt you really have to pay is to those people, and that's really hard, because it's so hard to make amends once you've taken safety and security or even a life from somebody.
I do not believe that all criminals necessarily owe a debt to society. Some criminals have victimized individuals, so I believe that if an individual determines that a criminal has paid their debt, then the debt should be forgiven.
I think it depends on the circumstances. If they really feel that they have rehabilitated themselves, then yes, they can. If they are just doing it just to say that I can get out of prison, then I don't feel that they've made an effort, and it wouldn't be a true statement of that.
Absolutely. Criminals the definition of a criminal is dependent upon a judgment of another. And I think that if you classify somebody as a criminal, then they have opportunities to redeem themselves as well as their communities by being part of and educating their community if they truly want to.
Well, that's an interesting question, because I think when a criminal commits a crime, there are two victims. A lot of times there is the personal person that they may have attacked, assaulted, murdered, so forth, so on. And then there's the cost of the judicial system to process them. So if someone stole your car, yeah, they could pay back society, but I think it's twofold. They should first have to pay back the car, not just be incarcerated or punished. Take care of the victim. Then they would have to pay back the court system and what the taxpayers pay to have them prosecuted. But then there are some crimes like murder, rape, pretty heinous stuff that I don't think you can ever pay it back, because you cannot give back a human life or someone's dignity. You know, people get messed up for the rest of their life based on the crime that was committed. So again, I think it's a really tough question. I think in some aspects it can be paid back, and it should be paid back. And then there's some areas that you just couldn't.
I think Peary did pay his debt to society because after he came out of prison, he was on probation for a while, so he knew that if he did something bad, then he'd go right back to jail. And he walked out one day and he saw a bunch of people doing drugs, and he asked himself, why would they want to harm themselves like that? So he now his mind is set straight, and he now realizes that the stuff that he used to do was really bad, so he doesn't want to do it anymore, and he wants to help others change their ways, just like he used to be. He wants to help them do the right thing. That's what he wants to do.
I believe that Peary Thomas really did try to pay his debt to society. I think whether or not he did is really more up to those he affected by the crimes that he committed. But I think he did a really good job of trying and showing that he was really kind of remorseful about what he did and wanted to change his ways, because after he got out of prison, he kind of looked at himself and just said, I don't want my life to be this way. I don't want to keep committing crimes and hurting people, regardless of what my neighborhood and the standards in Harlem tell me. So he dedicated the rest of his life to helping other inner city kids and traveling around and lecturing them and just helping them know more about himself and what not to do, and that there is a way to get out of the ghetto and the situations that they were in. So yes, he did repay his debt to society.